My mom pointed at me in front of the judge, who just happened to be her friend, and said, "This girl only knows how to squander what she doesn't deserve. She's trying to claim the entire fortune my grandmother left her in the will." The judge nodded, and her lawyer grinned, confident of a win. Then I spoke 2 words that made the judge go pale. "Hey, read it. My grandmother wasn't wealthy by chance. She was wealthy because she lived wisely. She saved everything, her money, her recipes, her stories, her faith. She always told me, 'Protect what you love, sweetheart.' I thought she meant childhood dreams, old letters, maybe her favorite cookbooks. I didn't realize she meant herself, too. When she passed away, I was the only grandchild she left her estate to, a decision she made openly, lovingly, and willingly. We had spent years together, Sundays baking, evenings talking, afternoons sorting through old photographs she refused to let fade. My parents didn't see it that way, especially my mother. The moment I told her about the will, her expression hardened into something sharp. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "We should be managing the family estate." I didn't argue. I simply said the lawyer would explain everything. I didn't realize she would try to bury the truth. 2 weeks later, I received a notice. A court hearing had been requested by my mother regarding an inheritance dispute. My stomach dropped. On the day of the hearing, Mom showed up in a tailored navy suit, her hair pinned into a perfect twist. She walked into the courtroom like she owned the place. And in a way, she did, since the judge assigned to the case was her friend of 15 years. That should have terrified me, but somehow it didn't. I entered with just my purse and my grandmother's handkerchief folded inside. Mom came in with a lawyer, 3 binders, and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. The judge looked at her, then at me, his expression softening in a way he never did with me. My mother stood up first. She stepped forward, pointing at me like I was a stain on a carpet, and said, "Your Honor, this girl only knows how to waste what she doesn't deserve." I kept my face calm. I had heard worse from her. Mom continued dramatically, claiming I had manipulated my grandmother into changing the will. "She's irresponsible, reckless, and incapable of managing the estate," she declared. Her lawyer chimed in with perfectly rehearsed lines about concern for family assets and suspicious changes. The judge nodded along, as if they were reading him a bedtime story. I felt every nod like a stone dropping into my stomach. Then it was my turn. The judge looked at me expectantly, pen ready to jot down whatever excuse he thought I'd give. My mother crossed her arms, her lawyer smirking. The room leaned forward in anticipation. I stood, took a deep breath, and said the 2 words no one expected. "Take it." Mom's smile froze. The judge blinked, and even her lawyer's confidence cracked like glass. The judge cleared his throat and said, "Excuse me." "Take it," I repeated, steadying myself. "If my mother wants the estate so badly, she can have it." A wave of whispers rippled through the courtroom. I continued, speaking softly, "But I do have one condition." My mother's body went rigid. The judge frowned. "A condition?" "Yes, Your Honor." I turned to face my mother. "My grandmother's photographs, the ones you removed from the family albums, and the charity donations she made for years that you stopped reporting. Before the estate changes hands, everything she documented must be restored and publicly accounted for." The judge's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing something was off. My mother's face drained of color, and her lawyer shifted uncomfortably. I finished. "The estate is nothing without her legacy. If my mother wants the money, she must restore the truth." The courtroom fell silent. No one breathed. The judge leaned back in his chair. My mother's friend, sitting in the front row, suddenly looked nervous. The truth was simple. Mom had removed my grandmother's photos from her albums years ago because she didn't like the clutter, and she had pocketed some of her charity funds for household needs. Documents existed. Receipts existed. Photos existed. And worst of all, Mom knew I had them. Her lawyer began to panic. "Your Honor, we need time to review this." "Time," I said softly. "You've had years." The judge raised his hand, silencing both sides. He looked directly at my mother. Not the way a friend looks at someone, but the way a judge looks at a liar caught in a trap. "Mrs. Halden," he said slowly, "are these allegations true?" Mom tried to speak, her voice faltering, her confidence cracking. The judge turned pale, not at me, but at the implications. Photos removed, charity money unaccounted for, financial inconsistencies. And my mother was the one who dragged us into court. The irony was delicious. The judge called for a recess. As we stepped outside the courtroom, my mother grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. I gently pulled my arm away. "I'm honoring Grandma. Something you stopped doing years ago." Her jaw clenched. "You little!" She raised her hand, but I cut her off. "No more insults. No more lies. If you want her fortune, you have to give back her legacy." For the first time in my life, I saw real fear in my mother's eyes. Not fear of losing money, but fear of losing her reputation. I walked back into the courtroom with steady steps. The judge was already seated, reviewing papers with a pale face. He looked up at me, then at my mother. "Miss Carter," he said quietly, "this changes things." I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. It does." Then he spoke the words that froze the entire room. "We will have to investigate every claim before proceeding with the inheritance case." My mother gasped. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to vanish into the wall. Her friend in the front row dropped her gaze. I stood there calm, rooted, my grandmother's handkerchief warm in my palm. I hadn't fought with anger, I had fought with truth. And truth had landed heavier than any accusation ever could. But the investigation was just the beginning. When the court dug deeper, they uncovered something that made my mother's face drain of every last drop of color. When the judge ordered a full investigation, my mother acted confident, but that confidence didn't last. Discovery is a beautiful thing. It takes lies, peels them open, and shows everyone what has been hiding inside. For the first time in my life, the truth was finally on my side. The court-appointed auditor moved fast. Bank records, donation reports, old letters, handwritten ledgers, even the missing photos. Piece by piece, everything my mother tried to hide came crawling back into the light. At first, her lawyer tried to smile through it, insisting this was normal estate confusion. But confusion doesn't explain checks addressed to charities that never arrived. It doesn't explain photos removed from albums. It doesn't explain signatures on household expenses that matched my mother's handwriting. And it definitely didn't explain a locked storage bin the auditor found in our attic filled with documents my grandmother had kept safe and my mother had tried to bury. One afternoon during the investigation, my mother burst into the courtroom, whispering frantically to her lawyer. She kept darting glances at me. Fear, real fear, the kind she usually reserved for losing control. When the judge entered, the room fell quiet. He looked tired of excuses, tired of manipulation, tired of watching a family crumble because of greed. "Proceed," he said. The auditor stepped forward with a small stack of papers, my grandmother's real ledger, the one she kept by hand. Every donation listed with check number, date, and recipient. Every cent accounted for. The judge adjusted his glasses. My mother's lawyer tensed. My mother held her breath. The auditor began reading the totals out loud. Donation after donation appeared in the ledger, but not in the charity's records. Not in the bank statements. Not anywhere except one account, my parents' joint credit line. My mother paid. The courtroom murmured. Even the judge leaned back, stunned. Finally, he looked at her, not as a friend, but as a judge. "Mrs. Halden," he said slowly, "do you have any explanation for this?" Her voice cracked. I was going to pay it back." I didn't think her lawyer would practically elbow her silent, but it was too late. Confession always comes with desperation. The judge lifted a hand. My mother sat frozen, trembling, breathing like someone drowning in her own lies. Then came the photos. The auditor placed a box on the table. All the pictures Mom had claimed were misplaced. Photos of my grandmother, her charity work, and every award she'd won that my mother never displayed. These were found hidden behind insulation in the attic, the auditor explained. My mother's face fell, and suddenly the judge turned pale, not out of fear but out of disgust. 90% of these were removed from albums, he said quietly. "Why?" My mother opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The judge didn't need an answer, not anymore. He cleared his throat. "Given the evidence," he said, "this court has no choice but to dismiss the inheritance challenge and uphold the original will." My heart raced, not from triumph but from relief. He continued, "Additionally, the court orders a full financial audit of all accounts managed by Mrs. Halden. Any misappropriated funds must be repaid. Any missing donations must be restored. Any removed items must be returned." My mother let out a strangled sound, somewhere between a gasp and a sob. The judge closed the file. "This hearing is concluded." My mother didn't look at me as people began to leave. Her lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She stared down at the table, her shoulders shaking. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, almost. But then I remembered how she had pointed at me, claiming I only knew how to waste what I didn't deserve. Her attempt to rewrite my grandmother's entire legacy, her decision to erase photos, steal donations, and twist memories. She hadn't punished me. She punished my grandmother. No apology could undo that. Update: 7 months later, a lot changed after the hearing. My mother avoided me completely. My father sent one awkward text. My sister pretended nothing had happened. But the truth has a strange way of settling people into the places they belong. The charity sent me a handwritten letter thanking my grandmother for her generosity and thanking me for restoring her honor. I framed that letter in my entryway. As for the estate, I didn't keep most of it. I restored my grandmother's farmhouse, turned her garden into a memorial, and donated a portion of her remaining funds to the charities she loved. Watching her legacy bloom again, the way she wanted, became the closure I didn't realize I needed. One evening, while cleaning out the study, I found one last note from her tucked behind an old painting. The handwriting was shaky but familiar. "Truth will always protect you, even when people won't." I closed my eyes and smiled, feeling her presence in the quiet of the room. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need approval. I didn't need validation. The truth had done all the work for me, and for the first time in years, I finally felt free.